I'm Sally. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I was addicted to heroin for a very long time. When I was 13 years old, and that's the first time I picked up a drink and a drug, and other things happened all in one night. And you know, my progression wasn't slow. When I put that drink and drug into my body, I immediately felt like this was the answer. You know, this was exactly what was missing out of my life, and this is what was going to, continue and cure everything that's going on with me. Within a month, I was shooting heroin. It was a very fast progression. It was not slow. It didn't take, a long time to lead up to that. There were pills in between. I remember, being introduced to Oxycontin and other opiates, and it led right to heroin. And I didn't snort it, I shot it for my first time. And I remember feeling like this is how I wanted to feel for the rest of my life. Everything that I felt about myself had gone away, all the pain and just reality was gone. And I continued that drug use all throughout high school. I could never really be who I wanted to be because I was always getting sucked down by such a negative force, which was my addiction. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I didn't. There was a time where I overdosed in school. When I was 16, I went to my first rehab, and it was out in Minnesota. It was Hazleton, which is like one of the best rehabs in the world, and it planted the seed in my head. The summer between my high school graduation and when I got into college, I was traveling with a lot of bands. I was so physically addicted to heroin at this point. They talk about, that point in your life when you can't live with it and you can't live without it. And I was absolutely at that point. I had crossed that threshold. And I never thought that would happen because I always thought that, drugs were just a part of my life. They weren't my life. I was smoking crack on a regular basis. I was living to get high. I couldn't wake up in the morning without, having my heroin. I could not wake up without feeling that false reality because I needed to get out of myself. I wound up going to my second rehab, which was Seabrook House, and that changed my life. It was a spiritual experience. And I remember walking into my therapist's office and said, I've been doing the wrong thing my whole entire life. Maybe just once I'll try to do the right thing and what people keep telling me to do, and we'll see what happens. I have nothing else left to lose. Little did I know that I did. And I stayed sober for almost 3 years. I wish that was it. I wish that was the end of my story. Everything happened, everything was great. I got sober and, life was fantastic, but it wasn't. I got high, and then the guilt and the shame set in. And then I got high because I got high because I got high. And I continued on a downward spiral from there. I think that I hit my bottom numerous times. And you just hit more trap doors, the farther and farther you go. They sent me to a place in Oklahoma, and this wound up being my 9th rehab. I met somebody out there. I wound up getting engaged to him, and his drug of choice was methamphetamine, and this was introduced into my life at the time. And this was a whole different type of crazy that I was not expecting, and I wasn't prepared for this. And things got really bad. Heroin was my drug of choice. Heroin was the love of my life. Both of our addiction had, gotten to the lowest of the low, you know, and I remember wishing, I'd pray to God that I would die, you know, and not by a drug overdose, because I was too selfish for that. I didn't want, you know, I didn't want to be the one that caused my death to hurt everybody else. You know, I wasn't going to let that happen. That was me. That was my thought process. I wanted to get hit by a car or some crazy way to go out that wasn't due to from myself, you know, and but that's not what happened. I lived, and my fiance passed away. I had surrendered. I was done. You know, I was beaten up. I was miserable. And when I left, I was following my father, who's terrible with directions, and he somehow wound up driving back into Oklahoma. And I was so angry. I was like, no, we were so close. But if I didn't drive back into Oklahoma, I wouldn't have seen the sign on the side of the road that said, "Are you ready?" And when I saw that, you know, I immediately knew it was my higher power. I made it back to New Jersey, and I've been sober since then. I go to meetings every day, or as much as I can. You know, I go to meetings, and that's my medicine. I have a sponsor. I have a phenomenal network of people in my life. I have friends, you know. I have a family that supports me. I have so much to live for. I'm writing music again. You know, I've written a couple songs about recovery and stuff like that. You know, I'm doing the things that I love to do that I never thought I would be able to do ever again. I have almost 8 months back, and it's definitely different this time, you know. It's not the same as it was when I had time before. Like I said, I needed to go through what I needed to go through, and I think that, you know, this bottom that I hit this time, it took me out. You know, when I look back on it now, I'm like, how in the hell did I get from there to here? You know, it's baffling to me. It really is. But I made it. I'm grateful.